This is Special Report.
Black holes are one of the strangest things in existence.
Neil Armstrong may have seen extraterrestrials on the moon.
When he spies a discernible shape.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
You can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered, but not for much longer. Because too many others know what's happening out there. And no one, no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
Welcome, everybody, to Full Spectrum Universe. I am your host. My name is Rob Yox. Normally, we're going to take you from your universe. We're going to bring you to my universe. My universe is dictated by facts, stories, and what we hate in my universe is groupthink and people who are deniers. So, with that being said, I've got an amazing show for you guys tonight. I've got two guests. We're going to have somewhat of a round table. It's going to be an amazing, amazing stream. So without further ado, I'm going to bring them on. They are mediums, psychics, seers, but also people who have that innate ability. 9 times out of 10 have the ability to interact with the paranormal. Interacting with the paranormal means that they've spoken to entities, they've witnessed entities, they've experienced entities. So not only do they have great ability with foretelling and seeing, they also have the ability to touch the other side and pierce the veil, shall we say. So without further ado, I'm going to bring them in. First, we have Skye Chen. How you doing, Skye? And we also have Lily Bhattacharya, right? Did I say it right? There we go.
There you go.
How are you guys this evening?
Great.
Good.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So right now, I just want to let everybody know that they do have sites that we're going to be putting up a little bit later for everybody. And we're going to let everybody know where they can find these people. And they are truly great. They help people on a daily basis. And that's something that I always admire is people helping people. One thing that psychics, seers, mediums, they always do is they give you peace of mind. And that way, I'm saying to you is that some people suffer from physical ailments from stress. Some people suffer from mental ailments from stress. And a lot of that stress and anxiety is basically them not knowing what the future holds. These two individuals actually give people that peace of mind to steer them in the right direction or foretell them what their future may be in a sense, or what they're actually going through right now. So I just want to say to you guys before we even start that what you guys do is truly amazing. And it's very, very commendable. And I admire the fact that you guys help people on a daily basis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. No problem. So let's start with Skye. Skye, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Sure.
And then we'll go to Lily, and then we'll get into some backstory for you guys.
All right. Well, my name is Skye Chen, and I've got a jam-packed full life. Lots of different experiences. I came out of my mama fully on and not really knowing what I got myself into. I have recently been back to the United States. I used to live abroad. I lived in Japan for a while and then in Taiwan. While I was in Taiwan, I came down with autoimmune Lyme disease that I later found out what it was. But at that time, I knew something was totally, totally wrong. I had been living a different kind of lifestyle. I was living very disconnected from my true self. And it got to that point where the body says, hey, look, you got to see what's going on here. And that's when I really dove deep into my own spiritual awakening. And fast forward, 7 years to today, things are how they are now. And I channel for people. I do shamanic energy healing. It's kind of like Reiki, but not really. I call it ethereal calibration, or EC for short. And I do Chinese astrology as well. So what I like to say is there's 1,000 different ways to screw on a light bulb, metaphysically, spiritually, whatever you're connected to, whatever you jive with, that seems to work for you. And that works for me as well. So I work with like tarot cards and all sorts of other things. But I do like just channeling using myself too. So hopefully we can get into some of that tonight if the viewers want to interact with us.
Oh,
So-
definitely. We'll definitely be able to do some readings a little bit later. So, not to, I always say show off your skills, but, just let the people see what you actually do and how you actually help people. The process is awesome, to see that happening in real time, So, Lily, why don't you give us a little bit of who you are?
So I was born and raised in New York. I've been a psychologist for 23 years. I'd been starting to do readings at the same time. And it just got to the point where I just decided that the spirituality was more important. And I focused on that entirely. I have seen spirits since I was a child. I was very lucky. They were all very friendly. I didn't have, I know people have had different kinds of experiences, and we'll talk about that later. But that's my first seeing of it. And I had a really supportive dad who knew that I had abilities, and he was very wonderful to me. So that's where I sort of catapulted into what I do now.
Well, that's great. Support in certain situations, especially not at a young age. If this innate ability manifests itself inside of you, it's definitely difficult to rationalize what's happening with because a lot of people, and not a lot of people at that age, they'll say, "Oh, it's just imaginary. It's just pretend." You're seeing things, and then they may even think that you have some kind of mental illness when really it's just something inside of you that's manifesting that you're a little bit more adept at, like I said, piercing the veil and being able to, see these things. It's truly amazing. And one of the things I always say is somebody who has your guys' ability, like I said before, has always had some kind of paranormal or spiritual experience that sort of not let them know that they were, that they had this ability, but it usually entails itself. They coincide with each other, It works together. So one thing we're going to be talking about tonight is the different types of entities that you may encounter, how to approach them, how to be around them. So really, even though that the both of them are psychics and seers, we will be talking about a lot of paranormal stuff as well. Hence why we're on RU Media Network. I want to give a shout out to Eric McGill and Dave Oliver. They are the heads of RU Media Network, and it's always a pleasure for me to be on this station. I truly, truly love bringing people information that isn't normally spoke about in everyday news, which is something that here at Full Spectrum Universe we pride ourselves on. And, let's get into a little bit of both of your first inclinations with the paranormal. We'll start with Skye again. What was your first, in detail, your first true experience with the paranormal itself?
Man, that's hard to really center down to one specific incident. But first thing that comes to mind is when I was about 2 or 3 years old, I would play around, and my mother even remembers this too. I would draw these two particular men, and I would have this same recurring dream all the time. I had it for like years, and it was always this. It wasn't like a childhood dream. It was in this dark cavern, like this underground cave network, and there were like miners wearing these hard hats, but they didn't have like battery powered lights. They had like candles. They had real old. So it was a while back. I now know, but their names were Chuck and Bob. And when you're like 2 to 3 years old, it's not typical that kids are really like, oh, I'm going to have my own imaginary friend over here. I'm going to name him Chuck or Bob. But they really liked talking to me. They liked playing with me. They were very humorous and lighthearted, which kind of runs in my family. We like to be silly. We like to be funny. And so that was my real experience. I used to draw them all the time. My mother still remembers these stories, and she always says, hey, you remember your imaginary friends back in the day, Big Chuck and Big Bob and Little Chuck? And that's what I used. I just knew Chuck and Bob. So when I saw other entities come through, a lot of them not always human, I would give them those personas and say, oh, that's Little Bob, that's Big Bob, this is Big Chuck, that's Little Chuck, et cetera, et cetera. But this dream, just in a nutshell, going back to that cave, because I'm seeing it now, even as I recall it, it was really, really dark and very dimly lit. But these two miners, I think now this is Bob and Chuck, they were talking to each other, but they were really kind of worried. And they were like, one was saying, hey, you know, what about this? And should we go over here? And what do we do about this thing and that thing? And they had this map open, and they were not really quarreling, but they just seemed very pressed that there was something that they needed to attend to quite immediately. And I would be approaching them. They wouldn't necessarily see that I was there, but behind me, I would hear these footsteps. So like, Lily, you were really lucky that you had really good light coming to you all the time. But there was a lot of stuff that liked to mess with me as a kid.
Wow.
So in this dream, I would hear these really heavy footsteps, like thunk, thunk, thunk.
Yeah, no, that would be scary.
It was very, very scary. And these miners would all of a sudden just stop dead at what they were discussing and just look up and look to me. And I thought they would be looking at me, but they were actually looking past me for whatever was making those footsteps. And they skedaddled. They got out of there fast. I didn't have a miner's hat or whatever. I was just the observer. But as they would leave, I would see the light get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And whatever this thing would come closer and closer and closer to me. I could feel its presence, and I could almost feel its breath. And then I would just close my eyes real tight and be like, I got to get out of this dream. And boom, I'd come out. So I had recurring dreams like that. A lot of them nightmarish. That one wasn't too scary compared to the rest of them, but they would recur over and over and over. And my father, I remember this now coming up too. My father used to, he's told me when he used to move around a lot. So I would have a hard time rooting myself anywhere as a kid. So when I was real young and they were buying their first house, I would be terrified of all these different basements. And he would just say, oh, I don't know why you were so afraid of these, but thank God I had a good father. And, he would look at other houses. So even if he thought that the house was absolutely perfect, if I really had a big problem with the basement, he'd be like, well, okay, that's consideration. So the house we eventually moved in was one of the very few that I was perfectly fine with the basement, being how it was. Yeah, it's interesting.
That's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. It's a wild scenario, especially to be starting off so young with it. A lot of people would have taken some kind of traumatic like symptoms from that, like a PTSD type of from that situation, which that's what it's another thing that we always talk about is the fact that it's really difficult as a child, like I said before, to really look at these things and know exactly what's going on.
You don't know what's going on.
It could cause a world of damage down the road too, which if you see a lot of psychics and seers, they actually do have some sort of trauma-based PTSD from this, which eventually goes away towards later in life because they understand it more and it gives it more of like a purpose. It's almost like, when you're going to a psychologist and you have that breakthrough that you figured out what was going on, and leading up to that point, you see a lot of them have that kind of stuff. So Lily, let's get to you and why don't you tell us about your first type of paranormal experience?
So mine was very different, but then I had like my dad had a huge library of books about ESP and afterlife and the Rosicrucians and ghosts and witches. And so I read all this as a young kid, and he would see that and he would sort of talk with me about it. And I also felt like as an indigo child or as an indigo adult now, things, and I used to think people were so stupid. Like, of course there's ghosts. What do you mean there's no ghosts? Luckily I only said that to my dad. I did notice other people were not as open, and I kept my mouth shut because people did make fun of me. But what I noticed was when I was falling asleep, people would enter in, and usually these were transient ghosts because most of my relatives were alive, the ones that were close to me. And they would just sort of look, and they were sort of intrigued that I could see them, and they would sort of smile at me, and then that was it. I do remember distinctly making my father check the closet, and he was like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, you need to check the closet. There's monsters, But I was about 5 or 7. I was older than Skye, and I was convinced. I was just like, Dad, there's something in there. He's like, you're crazy. So we would go through this every night, and I would make him check. And then he caught on to me seeing those. He'd talk with me about it. He asked me to keep it away from my mother because my mother was a skeptic, and he didn't want to stress her out. She was a very stressed out first immigration woman. So we didn't really share it with her until much later. And And then it was fine because then she admitted that she'd seen things too and held it back. So that was sort of it. And they were transient, they were friendly, and they were light. Like, you know how you'll see people talk about shadows? Mm-hmm. I would actually see their faces, see most of their details. And we lived, Rob and I grew up back east in New York, where Westchester is, and there's lots of history. So there were soldiers, the 1800 soldiers. There was one soldier that came by. There was a woman or men. Some of these people, I think, had just passed and hadn't moved on quite yet, had some business to do, and were just happened to be in my area. And again, I'm going to say that I was really lucky because none of them harassed me. None of them bothered me. They didn't do anything. They didn't bite me or scratch me. I've seen shows where people get harassed by spirits that are, not happy or not at peace.
That's definitely the case. It's a fickle situation because it's either one way or the other. There's never anybody who has like a neutral, like light and dark at the same time, maybe kind of come through. Yeah. So it's very polarizing. And I just think that, I think that you're right. Where we live has a lot of historic history, and it's something that actually drove me into doing like research and things that I love so dearly, things that got me into who I am today and why I'm actually here right now. So I can relate on that side of it. But being somebody who has the ability to, like I said, pierce the veil, it must have been absolutely insane because the things that could happen, the possibilities are endless,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to touch base on that a little bit. I had shadow people visit me a lot, Lily.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, they're a little bit different than like what people would refer to as demons, which are kind of like more earthbound souls that have never incarnate as a human being. They don't necessarily operate through love and light. Some of them can want to maybe change a little bit, but now looking back, it wasn't always dark for me either. I did also see the faces of people, and a lot of them I know now didn't understand fully that they're really dead, or they might be in some sort of transition or transitory phase. A few of them are actually relatives of mine who never got to meet me when I was born. One actually, my father's grandmother reached out to me last week. In fact, it kind of surprised me in a dream. And I woke up, I texted my grandma right away because she had a message from my grandmother. Now, my grandmother isn't a particularly spiritual person, and I was a little bit doubtful, actually, but they were saying, do it, it'll be fine. And I connected with her, and I was actually quite surprised at the response I got.
Wow.
Some life lessons, I guess you could say, from her, or some feedback on
that's just not to interrupt you, but that's one of the things that I think is so amazing is that you were able to see other family members that maybe you haven't been around, or if somebody was to pass on, you have that innate ability to catch them after the fact, still contact with them. And I know it's very difficult for you guys to talk with them in so many words, I know it's sort of like a hidden language that you have to learn. So, was there a lot of difficulty for either of you to pick that up, what they were trying to show you or say to you?
I laugh at that a little bit because I'm thinking of my my grandpa right now. He died in 2010 or 2011. So it's about 10 years now. And he was a complicated individual. I understood him from an early age. He was quite bitter to a lot of people. He just got tired of having to deal with people. But when I was a kid and I would visit, I would always find that little spot in him to irk a smile out, to be kind of rambunctious and silly because we got each other in that way. And leading up to his death, he had dementia. So he lost all bearing, and it got, progressively more and more and more, to the extent where he was just like always dazed. He didn't know where he was or who anybody was or anything. And I remember coming to his house with my mother and my sister, and they were kind of in a hurry. They were kind of like rushing us and everything. But I felt the need to really like sit down and have, a nice conversation with him. I was smoking at that time, and he's been a lifelong smoker. So, we had a cigarette together, and I don't think he realized who I was, but he did know who I was. Like, he felt who I was. So he just looked at me and he smiled, and he didn't really say much of anything. And I gave him a kiss, and he liked that. And he just lit up. But after he passed, he never contacted me for about a year or two. And I was a little bit like, Grandpa, why aren't you contacting me or anything? I didn't understand it. And looking back, realizing he needed that time, in our perspective, the time when people pass on, time and space don't really exist in the same way, but he needed healing. He absolutely needed healing. He needed to shed certain things. He needed to grow in certain ways and connect in a certain way. So I don't think he was necessarily accessible. And I also want to say too, relating to this, we don't, or for me, I speak for myself, it's not always like I am going to connect to this person. So boom, I press this button, pull this lever. There's a lot of different factors that go into it, like the receptivity of the souls. A lot of people that I do readings for and work with, it comes differently depending on that individual. If that person is really open and they're really connected and they're, at the right time, it's going to come through. It's going to be profound. It's going to be amazing. And other times, sometimes they won't necessarily relate to what is being said, but then later on it'll click and they'll call me up later and be like, holy cow, Skye, like that makes sense now. Sometimes years later. And, with Grandpa's case, he did eventually come around and say hi. Well, not really. He just smiled in a dream because I was asking for that closure for myself. And so he did meet me in a dream one time, and he was just lit up with light. And all he did was just gleam those pearly whites at me. And I could just gleam back, and I was like, well, Grandpa, all right, I guess you don't need to say anything. I know you're all right.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We actually have somebody in the audience actually has a question. And while we get them, we'll go through them, as they come along. But Richard Neal says, what does it mean when I put my hand on the wall or the floor? I see flashes of people. What can this mean?
I got right away. This is the residual energy of the place that you're at. I see like a plaster wall. So this property, a lot of times the natural materials that make up the property, like the drywall, the foundation, cement, rock, wood, if it's been there a while, it picks up the vibrations of people. It's not necessarily the souls themselves, but what's traditionally referred to as the poltergeist, right? It's just the energy of what happened there as kind of like an echo. That's what I'm getting. What are you getting with that, Lily?
No, I would agree. So you're picking up the energy of the people who live there and what they were like. So if they had good intentions, you're going to pick up good, happy scenes. If they had neutral, you'll pick up nothing special. They'll just be neutral, just scenes. And if it's evil or if they're doing satanic things, you're going to pick up something that'll scare the hell out of you. Mm-hmm. You may even get shocked. You may have, things happen to you, bodily speaking. But yeah, you also could be flashing to the future of the place itself. You have to give yourself that credit. People are definitely, their abilities and their intuition is increasing. It's not just the spiritual people, it's everyone, because we're all evolving.
We're all spiritual, whether we realize it or not.
Right, exactly.
So
they're not choose to be on the path.
Yeah. I just want to add too, like it doesn't necessarily mean that these are people.
Right.
This is particular to your situation. So it's not just paint with the same color,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of talk right now about a great awakening. Everybody's saying that there's this great awakening happening. People are waking up to everything, whether it be political waking up or spiritual waking up. What does this mean? I would like both of you to answer this, but what does that mean to you? What does a great awakening mean to you?
So I think it means several things. The men are more opening up because there was like this male patriarchy for like power all throughout the years. And that's shifting and women are starting to gain in power. And so I think men in general, the whole male species, are opening to their divine, the female side. And the females are opening to their male side. And the other thing you see is awakening. People are just more transparent. The ability to actually stand behind who you are, mean what you say what you mean, is so much more important now. So that's a shift. Whereas before it was all image. It was all image and that's all that mattered. And the truth didn't seem to matter. Now the truth matters. Things come out all the time on social media and people go left and right, funding campaigns and doing things to try to change the laws. So there's a huge shift in terms of how they, how they do things. And the awakening, I just think people are getting more spiritual. They're getting more kinder. And like Skye said, everyone's on a path. It's just that some people are speeding on it. Some people are just going really slow. But you're on it. You're in it.
Absolutely. Life is a journey. That's what the Marquis says, and that's what I stand by. Everybody is on their own specific journey, and you're going to ride your own waves. It's like boogie boarding, right? Let's say there's 7 guys boogie boarding, all in the same ocean. As you go back further and further, deeper into the abyss of the sea, different waves, you're going to ride them home, but you're all going to end up on land eventually. Yeah. So with that being said, everybody's riding their own wave to that end game or that end place home.
Totally.
So Skye, I would like you to answer the question as well, please.
Yeah, sure. That was a beautiful answer, Lily. That was like right on the head.
Definitely was.
I want to elaborate a little bit about that with the men and the women part, because it transcends to the feminine and the masculine. Now, all of us, whether we're male or female or in between or whatever, we've got masculine and feminine aspects to us, or yin and yang, right? So the masculine, the masculine is about like enactment, like planning, strategizing. The past, I hear 155,000 years or so was really a time for us to explore that dimension of us, because we needed to kind of come out of the cave, so to speak, or literally sometimes, and establish a society, a network of systems so that we can get to where we are now, so that I've got electricity here, I've got a refrigerator, I've got running water, we've got this ability to be here, all 3 of us in different locations across the United States talking at the same time, facilitating that communication, that connection, leading up to where we are now, what the time of the divine feminine is unfolding before us, so that we can allow space for one another. Because like Lily's saying, our truths are coming out. We need to be able to have that safe space for one another, or that connection with one another, so that we can hold our own truth without having to step on someone else or having to manipulate another person's truth to fit our narrative for just power. Because I'm not saying that's wrong or right, but that's a definite limitation, and we're reaching the limits of that. Now, some people haven't done any work on themselves, or they haven't come to the realization to what other people are starting to realize. We're all on our different wavelengths. We're all on our different individual paths, and we can't judge one another for that, but we can hold space for ourselves. And when we do that, we allow that for other people naturally. So if you love yourself, you're able to love other people too. And one of my favorite gurus in India, his name is Sadhguru. I was just listening to him the other day, and he was saying something along the lines of, oh no, I lost it. That happens sometimes. I get so much coming through, and you have to choose.
Oh, it's a fact.
Yeah, right. Well, it'll come up later for sure. Lily can attest. This happens all the time with me.
You'll get it. Don't worry.
Yeah. So maybe that's the message herein, is that there's a time and a place for everything. Let it unfold. You don't have to push it through. You don't have to force something through. There's been a lot of that leading up to now. So now it's just a mode of reception, allowing, holding the space, so that, and a lot of us don't know what that means. So we're kind of confused about it, but within our hearts, we inherently know that this is the way things are going, and they're evolving, and it's wonderful for all of us. So as much craziness is going on out there superficially, there's at the core this deep, true love that's enveloping mankind right now. It's really amazing.
I'm actually going to answer the question too. And you know what what you're saying is it's always darkest before the light. It
Okay.
always has
Yeah.
supreme turmoil before complete harmony. You know what I mean? So one thing that I believe this great awakening is for myself, and I agree with the both of you 100%, is everybody, like you said, vibrates. They all vibrate at a scale that, it's like the duality of man. There's, there's whatever, with every one thing, like with every love, there's hate, with greed, there's giving, it's the duality of spirit as well. There's a light and a dark. And a lot of people, they need to realize that, the pineal gland is very important in decalcifying it to raise your vibration. When your vibration is raised, you are more receptive to love and acceptance. When you start to get things like, anxiety, depression, which everybody has, but when you can't quell them quite as much, your vibration starts to lower. And that's when the dark energies kind of feed off of that. They kind of know to kick you when you're down, in a sense. And,
Their
I think
power
that's a
is
very...
that
Right.
power is weak, not to step on your toe or anything.
That's what the Great Awakening is everybody's raising that vibration, and there's a lot of things opposing that vibrational frequency to be raised up. Like I was talking about the pineal gland and having it calcified. Decalcifying your pineal gland is super important to get in touch with your inner light, So light is winning, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it is always darkest before the storm. But I believe that we're all raising our frequencies in a sense of community and harmony as well,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. We actually had another question here,
Okay.
and it was from Jacqueline. And she says, I can always connect with my family members that passed on. However, I'm unable to connect with my mother that passed away when I was 3. What can I do to connect with her? Great question, Jacqueline.
Can I go, Lily, real quick?
Go for it.
You can...
Go for it.
I saw candles, so this is something I do myself, but my guides are showing me that this would really help you. So if you have an altar or some sort of holy space or sacred space in your home, I have mine in my bedroom. Just consecrate that, or if you've already got that, great. But 2 white candles, place them left and right. You can kneel down and you can light them up, turn the lights off, and center yourself. Take 3 deep breaths in and out like that. Center yourself, and then staring between these 2 candles, call upon your guides, call upon what you believe in. It can be God, it can be the universe, whatever you want to call upon, and then ask them to bring you closer to Mom, and also for some insight on what you want to, I don't want to say get out of it, but what do you see that connection being like? What do you see that experience? How do you see that experience unfolding, or what do you want? Because they're letting me know there's a little bit of that in there too. Because sometimes, like going back to the story with my grandpa, I really, really, really wanted to force that connection. And sometimes when you do that, you actually make that possibility weaker. And if you have a lot of bottled up emotion with that, that can throw you off too. So centering yourself is very, very important.
So I was going to agree with Skye. I saw 2 white candles too, but I also saw the mother's picture in the middle. And I feel like if you stare at your mother's picture and ask for her spirit to come down, and you do this repeatedly, and if you can meditate twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, it builds a connection with the universe and with spirit. And it might be a lot easier for you to get a message. And then the other thing too to keep in mind is, 1, if you get no message, your mom might be thinking you're doing just great. If there's a need to tell you something specific, because my father's passed when I was 17, I got to tell you, he's only come in specific times. And when he shows up, I'm like, oh God, here we go. Because it's to tell me something. If they're not saying something, sometimes there's nothing to say.
Or sometimes it's not your time.
Right. And so but that doesn't mean that the love is gone. The love and the support and the happiness and the peace that they send continually is totally surrounding you. Because I see white light around you, and I'm seeing white roses around you. So I don't know if you pray a lot to the Mother Mary, or I don't know. I don't know what your religious preference is, but I'm just getting that you're very protected.
She's
Sure.
very spiritual.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this. We actually have another question.
Okay.
It says, can I ask a question? What do my guides want me to see?
Hey, Kimberly, this is one of my regulars. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I mean, we've been talking about this a lot. Your guides want you to follow through, and without needing to either fail or succeed. There's this lens that you put a lot of things on that are important to you, where it's like either black or white, like I'm only 100% or 0%. You have to break through that in order to appreciate what you've got going on right now, because there's a lot unfolding, a lot changing, everything's shifting. And remember what we were talking about with that business venture? Like, yo, what's up with that? You got to get back on that. You're so like, well, this isn't working, so I might as well just let it all go. That is the self-sabotage that's getting in the way.
Awesome. I think it's great advice too. You know, a lot of us always get in our own ways. Our own head can be our own worst enemy. You know, Jacqueline actually said, she says, I do pray and thank you. I'm in tears. Jacqueline, don't cry. This is good stuff. This is good information.
Well, we can help, Jacqueline.
You know, and I'm glad that we were here to facilitate that for you. I personally didn't see anything because I'm not a seer, but you know, that's why we have people here to help. But you know, one thing I wanted to ask you guys as well is, since we're going to be talking about entities,
right,
what do you feel, or your theory, because it's always a theory, is the reason that these entities either appear, stay behind, or do they come back? You know, what is your take on it? And I'd like both of you to answer that question, please.
You could flip that around and say, why are we here? Because what my guides were actually telling me yesterday to bring onto this show is to address the illusion of I'm here, I'm alive, and this person is dead, so they're a ghost, or they're this other kind of entity. Many of them have been embodied multiple times before, and when we pass on, you know, we're going to be in their boat, so to speak. And so, yeah, what did they want to say about that? What can you ask it again? The last part.
Sure. No, sure. Why do you what do you think? Just put it like maybe in a different way, is why do you think that they come back to us, or what are they left behind? Do they come from home and come back here to speak to us? You know, what is your theory on how or why they're here?
It depends on the person. It depends on the individual, what they need to see, what they need to experience. And a lot of times, even when we judge something as dark, that experience itself is a blessing in disguise. You know, looking back when I was fresh in my illness and I was cursing the world and I was wanting to die, really, that was a different space, but it was the same experience. Now, looking back on it, seeing it from a higher perspective, I realize now that all blessings are curses and curses are blessings. They are one and the same. They're just words that we use for what we think or we feel or we experience is either working or not. And there's this tendency of humanity to just want to kind of like fit experiences into the definitions we give them, and to be like, this is that, this is this. And at a certain level, we need that to function in the three-dimensional world. But there is no such thing as that in spirit at that level or dimension. And at that level or dimension, there isn't much of a distinction between our souls and the souls of disembodied people or dead people, depending on their particular circumstance. You know, well, sometimes I should say some ghosts, some human ghosts in property, or, you know, sometimes haunting people, are not necessarily the whole soul. They're aspects of the soul, especially the ego. So if a person moves on and they feel like, I didn't do what I needed to do, that aspect can stick to that particular location, that particular concept or person that's related to that kind of energy. And until they let go, they're going to be kind of disembodied in that way. And that's why they can kind of like come in and then disappear and then reappear, go through walls and all sorts of crazy stuff because they are just barely physical, just barely, like 0.00001% physically manifest. That's why paranormal investigators can go into spaces with equipment and it can pick them up, because that equipment is picking up three-dimensional 3D stuff. Because there is some sort of residue, I guess you can say. Like when the vibration goes out, it sometimes resonates in this plane also, but a lot of times it won't. So there's a wide variety. There isn't really like one theory necessarily, but there's a map that one could draw out if they spent 100,000 lifetimes doing it.
It's definitely fascinating. Definitely fascinating. Your turn, Lily.
So I have like three things. So one is, I think some ghosts actually are on the other side. They're safely there, and they come periodically to give us information or to give us a message or to warn us. I've heard of so many stories like that. The other thing is, then there's the people who've never somehow made it to the light because they kind of got lost or they're a little in shock that they're dead. And they just need a push. They need, usually a lot of them will find a psychic, a medium or a seer that sees them, and the person gets sent to the light. I had a soldier hanging out in my hallway until finally I was getting a reading, and the woman's like, "Are you going to send that soldier on?" And I said, I guess I could. He's just hanging out. I didn't really think anything of it. I get so used to ghosts, I forget that they need help. So I thought, all right. So that night I, put out the sage, called on Jesus Christ. I asked for his soul to go, and I have not heard from him since. So there's that. But then there's the other type of entity, which I know Skye's talking about, where I had not seen black shadows, black entities, nothing until one day. This was like 3 years ago. I was out in my backyard, and we had a beautiful backyard with a clothesline. I was putting out laundry, and this black cloud tried to come near the house. And my mother and I both pray and meditate twice a day. She's prayed like 8 hours at a time. I mean, that's just how long she goes for. That builds up a vibration of love and an energy. The thing couldn't come near the house. It kept trying, and it would sort of fly off. And it kept trying, and I was in shock. I was just staring at it, frightened to death. And I thought, this is ridiculous. So I started to pray, and I asked for the energy to move away, and it did. That's how it moved away. But it scared the living light out of me, because it looked like this. It almost looked like the face of it. It had no face, and it just looked like complete blackness. And it's the feeling that overcame with it. It had such sadness and such pain, and I was just blown away.
Sometimes it's collections of souls too.
Yeah.
Like pockets, you would say? Like certain areas hold like pockets, or is there like a portal that opens up and they come through it at that point?
Anything is possible. I mean, you've seen these shows. That's certainly possible. If people are doing good things in a good way, it draws good energy, and people feel great there. People come to our house, they don't want to leave, and I'm like, come on, people, get out, But then you'll have places where people can't even stand to go in there because of what's happened there. I've seen paranormal shows where dogs wouldn't stay in a certain room, and it's because they had done satanic rituals or they had hurt people, and they pick up that energy and they won't go in there at all. They're just that sensitive.
I mean, there's so many aspects, to being able to see these things. Now we're going to get into more of like what types of entities are out there and how do we approach each one properly. So, I mean, I know Skye had some. We talked about a little bit of the different kinds, but what is the I want to say the right way to really approach certain entities that may not look, as they are of the light, but of the dark, and then we'll regress back to the light type of energies.
Sure.
Okay. So first of all, you have to ask yourself, why would you want to approach an entity like that?
Yeah.
Because when we lose our bearing or we're bored, there's a lot of that perspective with people out there, or I guess bored isn't the best word, but curious as well. Like curiosity killed the cat, so to speak. So if you go out into nature and you find a mysterious blob of a creature, do you poke it with a stick? There's always those people that do that. So
I might.
it's understandable. So you have to introspect on that if that's something that you're into. But with me in my life, it's been just a lack of knowing what the hell it is I'm actually getting myself into. And I have an interesting story about that. It's not necessarily about a dark entity, so to speak, but it's dark energy surrounding, somebody that had difficulty moving on. And at that time, like Lily, when you were telling your story just to go, that popped up for me. I was seeing a girl, and I've told you guys this both off camera before this show. I was seeing this girl a couple of years back, and we were traveling around, and we were staying at this motel for the evening, and everything was fine. I took a shower, got out of the shower, dried myself off, sat down in the bed, and I just felt so sick, so grossly sick. And it was like this freezing cold temperature was getting to the core, was getting to the marrow in my bones, like the deepest part of my body. And I couldn't understand, because I would feel my feet, I would feel my hands. They were warm from the shower, and it just felt like freezing and sick at the same time, just like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? So the first thing that I said out of my mouth to this gal, she's got abilities too, was, there's somebody here, isn't there? And she was like, yeah. I didn't say anything about him. So we decided that night, before we were going to bed, to do our own meditations. So she was doing her meditation over here, and I was doing my meditation over here. And as I was going through my meditation and I was trying to help him out, I kind of overstepped my boundary without realizing it. I said something along the lines to him, your family is on the other side. You can choose love and light if you want to. All you have to do is make that step. I can help you. You need, like, and so with this power, in that connection, it was really overstepping his boundary. He didn't like that. He wasn't ready for it himself. And with how I was ushering this energy into the room, into the space, and with him and the connection there, without realizing it, I was opening that up before he was ready for it. And so what happened was, he rushed into the bathroom and slammed the door. And both of us just like startled from the middle of our sessions. And that door was rock solid, like the knob was solid, and there was no way to lock this door, like, at all in this motel. She looks at me and she's like, you shouldn't open that door. He says that if you do that, he's going to rush onto you. He's going to attack you. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that set the precedent for that night. This dude really, really did not like what I was about, because I came in rushing, like a really happy-go-lucky dog, and like licking your face before even asking, like, hey, how's it going? Without realizing it. So the first thing you have to do, I would say, is know the atmosphere of the room, feel into it, and stay in your own lane, I guess, for the time being.
Stay in your own lane. I like that.
It's true. It's true. If people took that advice more, it would be beneficial in every aspect of life. Stay in your
not
lane.
Just with dead people, living people too.
Right. I actually have a surprise for you guys really quick. There's somebody who really wants to say hello. We're going to add her.
Hey,
There she is.
Lily, how are you?
Good.
Yep, I was trying to get on real quick. I wanted to say hi to you guys, and it's awesome that you're on with Rob. Rob's really a great, amazing person. So
thank you so much for the introduction. We appreciate it.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, Skye.
So, Melinda, now that you're here, you're only in for a couple of minutes, but that it's been a great show so far. We've gotten a lot of great information from them. Is there anything that you'd like to add to what we're talking about? I'm sure you're listening.
Yes, I have been listening here and there, because I was a guest on another area. But anyway, that's a lot of stuff that I do is rescue mediumship. And so I know a lot of times, because I have my own paranormal team, and we go out and we do a lot of investigations and stuff. And so I'm the one that handles what I call earthbound spirits. And they become earthbound because of, usually they've been murdered, or they died suddenly, like in an accident, or just fell of a heart attack, just something suddenly or tragically. And the one thing that I have encountered is that a lot of times they don't know that they have passed.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the biggest things, is that they don't really realize they've passed. And so the process that I go through with a spirit that is earthbound is, I sit down, and I actually sit down and I treat them like they're right there with me, just like you or Rob or Skye, either one of you guys. And I talk to them like I talk to you guys right now. And then finally, once you have to show respect to them.
Yeah.
And if there's no respect, then no, they're not going to want to talk to you if they think that you're thinking this is a game. Because a lot of times that's what some of the spirits have told me, that, I've had other people that can see me and talk to me, and they think this is a game. And they're like, they didn't care about what happened to me, and that's basic what I do. I let them tell me what happened, what they remember. And then, I go into the process of letting them know, well, you did pass. And, we need to get you through the light. And usually every time I've done that, they've usually went.
Yeah.
So, just listening to you guys, I just wanted to pop in and say hi and just let you know what, that's the process that I do. And I do those a lot.
Yeah, there's one thing I want to add with this. So there's also, it's really important to honor cultural traditions. Okay. So I'll give you an example. When my father passed, he lived here in New York. We went to India that summer to do a special spiritual kind of ritual. Until we did it, it was 6 weeks that me and my sister went. I was 17, she was 13. We were sick as a dog, and we could not keep food down. Had diarrhea. I mean, it was the worst, right? We've never been this sick. Week 6, when we finally do the ceremony, right? We go to Tharkashar, we do the ceremony. Suddenly, our symptoms go away. And me and my sister are fine. And my mother was just like, what the hell? I should have done this right away. Like, I didn't realize you were going to be so affected. So sometimes there's something to these cultural practices, and people really shouldn't make fun of them, because there's something to it that honors the spirit on the other side, and they get something out of it, and they release a blessing, and somehow people here are being affected,
Yeah. Well, I'm Native American, and so, we have our way. And that is something that I've noticed too. If someone in my family has passed, and if we delay the ceremony or anything like that, then that spirit is in limbo. They're earthbound. And so, and until you can complete the process that they're wanting, then they will not go through, they will not cross over.
That's incredible. Skye, have you ever come in contact with a spirit that doesn't know that it has passed yet?
This same dude that I learned the hard way.
Right.
Or not to talk to you.
Yeah. And he followed us through, because we actually moved down about 5 or 6 different rooms. And obviously that wasn't a challenge for him, just pass on through. But he really was picking at me the whole night, and my heart was palpating.
Wow.
And I was getting kind of freaked out. But yeah, looking back, Melinda, that's exactly what the situation was. How would you feel if someone just barged into your house and was just like, hey, you can leave if you want to. Over here is better. It's all great and everything.
Right.
Yeah. So,
that's what I was saying. What I call it is I counsel them.
Yeah.
I let them have their say. I let them explain what they remember. I ask if there's any messages they want me to deliver to someone for them. I mean, I really make it personal. And then they start calming down, and they're taking in what's happened. And once you go through all that process, and you're showing them that you're sincere and you're there to really help them, then they usually would cross over without any problem.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Now, guys, also, if anybody wants to hear more of this at a later time, on October 30th, All Hallows Eve, we are doing a 6-hour event on another network that I am a part of. But if you follow Full Spectrum Universe, you'll be able to get it as well. And it'll be all 4 of us from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is only a slight preview of what we're going to have some really incredible conversations then too. And Melinda, I just want to thank you for stopping in and saying hi. it's always a pleasure to have you on, and it's always a pleasure to see you, of course. Melinda is one of my, she's one of my best friends and one of my, we are a team, me and Melinda. So it's always great to see you, Melinda.
Nice.
Well, Rob, I feel the same way, and you're my best friend, Rob. I'll just
There
put
you
it
go.
out there. You're my best friend, and but I adore Lily, and this is my first time meeting Skye. So hopefully I'll get to know more about you, Skye, and we can chat sometime.
Likewise.
All right, guys, I've got another live I've got to go do, or I would stay around.
Melinda is always busy. She's always on the road.
Always.
Get him, Melinda, get him. That's it. You know what?
Let's go.
Go and get him. That's what you got to
Exactly.
do. Stay
All right,
busy.
guys.
All right. See you later.
Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Love you too, Melinda. See you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah.
She's so funny.
Oh, I love Melinda to death. She's awesome. Love her to pieces.
Yeah.
So Leo, let's get back to my interrogation of you two.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No, but so let's go into the next type of spirit. We've talked about ones that were maybe earthbound and or didn't know that they had passed.
Right.
In your experiences, what was what was the wildest experience you've ever had with an entity?
Oh boy.
Oh.
Yep. We're going there. We're going there.
That's close to us, because my parents have a great story. My parents have the best. My parents were new immigrants. They were in England. They were renting spaces, and they're both Indian, as you know. I'm Indian. So at that time, the prejudice was really high. So it was hard for them to get a space. Well, they got a space. They got an apartment, and they both instantly felt uneasy. They would see this ghost that rushed past their bedroom, past the bed, when one of them was in the room and the other one wasn't. And then one night it happened when the two of them were there. And they were out before the month was up.
Oh,
and the landlord couldn't keep people in that room. And this is why the spirit that was there clearly wanted no one there. But that to me is the wildest, because
that is crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
You figure that they're looking like they both saw it by themselves, and they're like, yeah. They tell the other one, and they're like, okay, maybe it's just something, you ate, you're tired. Then they see it together. They look at each other. They go, did you see that? Did you see that? Sure as shit I did. They're like, oh, okay, all right, time to go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Skye, your turn. Oh, sorry, Lily. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No, that's okay. That's probably the freakiest I said.
Oh, what
I saw their expression as you're saying that, and not knowing your dad, Lily, but picking up on him. I feel like he'd be a hard guy to kind of convince. In his own two eyes.
No, but it was like, woo!
Just to have them like looking and then face each other,
Oh, it's it. I saw the same thing. Did you see that? Yeah. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Out of here.
Yeah.
I would have done the same thing. You kidding me? I've never been in an investigation in my life. If I was to go in, I would bring a change of drawers. I'm telling you right now. Telling you right now. That's not even a joke.
That's the most important item.
That's a fact. Just in case,
Yeah, you gotta be prepared.
Yeah. So I've got, I guess, two different stories. One of them is, well, both of them are amazing. One of them was with like a living person, but so I'll save that for after this one, because that one's more lighthearted. It's a feel-good story. This one is a little bit like, whoa, drama. So
whoa.
Back in the day when I was in college, before I had kind of my spiritual awakening, I was dating this Japanese girl, and we had reserved our vacation, like our spring vacation, to Yellowstone National Park. Now, Yellowstone Park is about 10-15 minute drive from, what was the name of the city? Keystone, South Dakota. One of the most haunted, if not the most haunted cities on the face of the United States.
Wow.
Or in the United States.
Okay.
And so I like to drive. So we drove from, I'm in Minnesota here. We drove all the way from central Minnesota all the way there in one shot. It was like an 8-hour drive or so, but I didn't mind it. By the time we arrived, it was already dark and we were winding down this one road. Now I should tell you, we went on the off season. Most people don't go there. So this is a dinky little town, and hardly anybody was there at the time, but she was asleep next to me. and we were winding down this road. I saw the sign past me. It said Holy Terror Lane. I was like, okay, that's inviting. So we're driving. There's the moon out. You know, there's these really, really tall trees. It's in the middle of wilderness, right? And we're winding down, and she just wakes up out of a dead sleep. She looks at me and she's like, are we here? And I was like, yeah, it looks like we're here. We come in, we park at this, or in the parking lot. There's this deer. There's just this deer standing there. It's not phased one bit. It's got this glossy look over its eyes. Like you can go like.
Did you freeze?
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
He may come back. We'll see. Happens. You know what it is? You know, I find out that when people with your abilities tend to use computers and things like that, they tend to, it's funny too, because I was talking to Melinda once and she said a spirit passed through her computer. And the thing when I tell you that this screen went green all up and down and side to side, I've never seen that in a webcam in my life. Yeah. And this is what happened. Have you had any experiences with that, like where it messes up all of your electronics?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I've had it where we've turned the TV off and we come back in the next morning and the TV's on and I'm like, who turned the TV on? Yeah, no. It's nuts.
That's insane. That's insane.
Because it's like, who did it? You know? Where do you go?
He'll come back. Once he comes back on, after a couple of minutes of being inactive, it'll drop you out of the stream. That's all right, though. He'll come back. I'm sure it's just a little glitch in the matrix, I always say, you know? So, you know, now that we've gone over these specific types of entities, you know, what is your best way to maybe rid an entity of a house or, you know, interact with this entity to tell it, okay, let's go to the light now, you know?
There's a couple of ways to do that. So, and if you've watched Paranormal State, some of them show you this and I've learned a lot from them actually. So one is you call a priest of any denomination and they come and they bless the house. Two is to put up an actual cross in the house or any kind of spiritual, you know, icon of any faith. So for like the Hindus, it would be the goddess, you know, Kali or Durga or Krishna. Just doing that can sometimes drive the spirit away. But the other thing that I've seen a lot of people do, the Native Americans have this thing called sage, and then we've got incense. So if you can't get a hold of sage, use the incense, for God's sakes. And go all around the house. And I've done this. Go all around the house. And when you feel like there's just too many spirits just bothering you, and say, in the name of the Lord and Jesus Christ, I command you to leave. And basically the energy gets depleted. And all the excess transient goes, anyone who's there, any energy that's there, any passing energy, it just leaves. And the house feels really refreshed. It feels clean and it feels safe. The other thing you can do is those people who use large crystals, and I mean large, I'm talking like big, like a foot by a foot.
I've seen a lot of big ones, real big ones.
I have big ones in my bedroom. And there's a reason for that, because I don't want people coming near me. So I have one now on my bedside. I have one in the corner. I have one downstairs in the living room where I do readings. And I find the energy, it lightens the energy, it cleans it, and then at the same time, it protects me. They just don't come near me. Yeah.
I definitely, you know, it's definitely good to protect yourself with that kind of stuff. Yeah. What have you had a lot of experience in like a paranormal investigational setting, or is it just more of like?
I would love to go, but I have not. No.
So why don't you explain to the people the majority of the work that you do for people?
So most of the work we do is we're doing readings or we're doing Facebook Lives. We do this all the time. We go on every day, Skye and I, and he and I do a show on Wednesdays where we do it together. And we'll do readings. People will ask us, they'll pay. Occasionally somebody will say, you know, so-and-so passed. Can I get a message for so-and-so? We prefer not to do it on the lives. It's very hard to concentrate on one person's energy when you've got 20 other people there. Get the message coming through from the spirit. So we try to send them to a private setting. But what I do, or what Skye has done, is we just ask for the photo, the name, and then pretty much you're concentrating on the energy, and then you start to pick up information. And you're getting images, you're getting information, you're feeling something, you're knowing something, you're sensing something, you're hearing something. And that all of that information is a message for the person. And then I share it back, and the person then says, wow, you know, you're right, this person was really with me. They want confirmation that their loved one is with them. And usually when I'm able to sort of give them something that, I wouldn't normally know, that's when they feel some sort of comfort. For the woman, I'll give you an example. The woman who had a husband that I felt was really young, like only 40 years old, and he passed. I described the flowers on the casket. I said, I'm seeing dahlias. And I said, I'm seeing dahlias and yellow roses. And she said that was on his casket. So she was blown away. And then we were describing the relationship, and then the relationship he had with the son. And so that's usually the type of the thing. And most people are looking for like a little guidance, like how would Uncle Joe handle Grandpa's will, those types of things. That's really what people are asking for.
I tend to, I think you're right on the money with that. With people, it's difficult for me from an outside standpoint to say to people, this is what it is. This is that, this is that, because ultimately I'm not attuned like you guys are. So I like to ask that of everybody. Is that, and what is your theory of what's really going on? Because for me personally, I like to think of myself as sort of sensitive, but not in a way that's not no. It's different for me.
Okay.
I feel it. I don't see it like you guys do. We actually have Skye coming back in.
Okay, cool.
Hey, I'm back. Woo!
What happened, bud? What happened?
Lily, you tell him.
What? More interference? Are you serious?
Yeah, it just cut out.
Oh my Lord!
Right in the middle of my story. Maybe they didn't want that part of the story to be told.
Maybe.
That's wild.
It's a wild story. It's a good story. It's too bad. Maybe I was taking too long.
All right.
I don't think you were taking too long, but
tell the lighthearted.
Okay.
Tell the lighthearted.
You tell both stories. Forget it. We're not at the bay of anybody. Those spirits can take a back seat. We're gonna tell the story anyway. And if you don't like it, get out of my universe. You know what I mean? Boom.
Boom. All right.
Boom.
So we were in the parking lot with this weird kind of dazed deer.
Yeah.
So we had this kind of weird feeling. And it kind of wasn't just with the animals, it was with the people too, because when we had checked in, put our luggage upstairs in our room at this hotel, it was like us and another couple. It was like 4 people, 4 guests, and then just the staff of the hotel and the staff of the bar next door. That was the extent of all the life in that probably 50 square mile region.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We were really on the off season. It was, she liked that the tickets were cheap. So
okay.
I didn't let her know that it was the most haunted place on earth. Because I was like, what do you do? And I didn't really believe too much in that, or I didn't really focus too much. And I'm gonna take my glasses off because of the glare. So we settled down for the evening.
Okay.
And she fell asleep first. I took a little bit longer. I was kind of dinking around on my device or whatever. And I was like, all right, I'm going to lay my eyes down. So I got in bed, snuggled all up. Everything was perfectly fine. I was starting to just drift off. And when you're halfway asleep and halfway awake still, you're kind of like, okay, any moment now, I won't remember when I fall asleep. I'll wake up the next morning. It'll be like, boom, like that. Right at that moment, I felt 5 digits wrap around my ankle, my left ankle.
Oh my God.
And I felt like a zing of electricity going through my entire body. It was like static, but like way stronger than static electricity. It's like you take 25 balloons and then go like that. And I just like my eyes went totally open. And I was just like, holy cow, my heart started beating because you could feel every digit like that. And it was kind of cold. And so I was like, okay, all right. And at that time I wasn't, into that kind of thing.
Right.
And I was like, Jesus, all right. So what do I do here? And like my mind was starting to race. And then I could hear like shuffling about the room. And I could feel the covers, the comforter kind of sliding around over my feet a little bit and my legs. And I was just like, oh my God. So I had the courage to open my eyes up, look down at the foot of my bed, and I saw the covers kind of move and shuffle a little bit. And I immediately squeezed my eyes tight and I was like, all right, okay, there's a ghost here. They're trying to contact me. I just want to go to bed. I just want to sleep. I just want to, I was driving for like 8-9 hours. I was zonked, man.
No, yeah.
Like, oh, not now. And we're in the middle of nowhere with these weird people and this weird deer or whatever. My girl's asleep. I don't want to wake her up and be like, hey, darling, there's kind of a ghost happening right now. So just to let you know, I didn't want to be that guy, So I was just like, all right, we're going to go to sleep. We're going to go to bed. We're going to fall asleep here. And I felt that presence kind of leave a little bit. But a couple minutes goes by, I feel a different presence enter the room. And this is not feeling so good. This feels tall and like not condescending, but like checking me out and being like, who are you? I mustered the courage again to open my eyes just a little bit. At the foot of the bed, this time there was this 6'3", 6'2" shadow standing right there. Big 10-gallon cowboy hat with his arms folded like that, just kind of like looking at me like, you don't belong here, buckaroo. It was like looking back in retrospect, I definitely know what that was about. There was this guy here who had died in the 1860s or so during the gold rush. He didn't know he was dead, like Melinda says. And his gold was buried in the vicinity. We'll just say that. I won't say exactly where it is. I know where it is. He doesn't want me to say that, but it's there. And so I was just like, holy cow. So I closed my eyes, waited for him to leave. I got out of bed, turned a light on, and then I actually left her there with the door open a little bit. And I went down because we were on the top story. We went down the staircase, and I like made a beeline straight for this desk receptionist. And I just looked right at her, and I pointed at her, and I said, yes or no, is this place haunted? And she went, well,
Oh God.
sometimes, the housekeepers talk
Maybe.
about Bob or whatever, but he's okay. He doesn't hurt anybody. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then they were letting me know there's a huge natural deposit of quartz right underneath where our room was situated. And there was an old cellar that was built. The foundation was built right on top of that initial deposit, which held the foundation for the original property, because it was a hotel that was built on top of whatever original property had stood there. So I know that in retrospect now. But generally what had happened was, to kind of, wrap it up, I went back upstairs. I tried going back to bed, but I couldn't. And she eventually woke up because she could sense my fidgetiness. She looks at me and she's like, what's the matter? I was like, nothing. Nothing's the matter. Just go to bed. She's like, something clearly is the matter. And so I told her what I just experienced. And now she's like wide awake and she's freaking out too. Yeah. At this time, when we're both up, we start hearing knocks on the walls and furniture start to shuffle and move around and stuff. Just little like that kind of, or like that kind of stuff all over the whole room. So we get up, we start like debating this and that, starts arguing a little bit. There's a funny side to this story. I just remembered. So we're like in the middle of this like kind of argument where she's like, we got to get out of here. I want to get out of here. I'm like, baby, like we're in the middle of nowhere and we don't have reservations anywhere. And I'm so tired. And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to go anywhere. And at that time I heard like this behind her. Oh my God. So I look at her and I'm like, did you just pass gas? And she was like, no. And I was like, all right, we're getting out of here. So we packed up and we just like made a beeline for the car. The receptionist was like following us the whole way. She's like, we're so sorry, we'll accommodate you somewhere else, because they couldn't refund us the ticket at all, or the reservation. They're like, we'll move you down the hall. We'll go somewhere else. He's really not going to bother you. I was like, if this really is a ghost, like what is moving down the hall going to do? Like, isn't he going to come out and be like, hey, that dude's over there? And so we eventually like drove. It was like some crazy distance. It was like an hour and a half away was the nearest town. We got there at like 6 o'clock in the morning, went to bed, had to drive all the way back, go through that town again just to visit Mount Rushmore. And that was an interesting little story there. But then in retrospect, channeling it back, and also learning through a few psychic mentors along the years when they've channeled that experience and were there and looking at it in their mind's eye with me. And we now know that dude there did not want anybody discovering his gold, his stash. his property, and it's understandable. Like, he didn't know he was dead at all, like 0% inclination whatsoever. And we were imposing on his place, you know? It's like, who the hell are these people showing up? And, you know, at that time, it was a different time. They didn't, you know, especially white men that would come in to settle weren't exactly the nicest dudes to the native population around there. And I was dating a Japanese woman who looks very similar to the native people that live there. There was something else too about that I was going to bring up. Anyway, that crazy, that story was interesting. Even going back, and I remember here and there what it was like in that situation.
Yeah. The one question I have for you, Skye, is did your abilities change in any way while you were living abroad?
I don't want to say they changed, but it's more along the lines of we come into alignment with ourselves. We have our faculties, right? Like, we have our bodies, we have our minds. We are not our bodies or our minds. We have them. That's why when we pass on, we give back the loan to nature, our bodies. We give back the lump of impressions that we've gotten over the years with our mind and our psyche. We leave that behind because that was the life that we had then. It served its purpose, and it's not all of who we are. Like, we transcend to those other realms. I remember what I was going to say with this story. So there was this friend of mine who's also a psychic medium. She had told me when I first told her this story that she got the feeling, and I know this now too, this is true, that this 5 digits around my ankle grabbing me was a Native American woman trying to warn me of this dude coming on his property, trying to say, hey, look, you guys should look out for this guy.
Right.
Held you back a little bit, grabbed you. Stop.
Well, it was gentle. It was very, very gentle. You could still feel it every digit, but it was soft and it was nurturing and it was feminine. So very different feeling from the dark mass that came at the foot of the bed with his arms crossed. Like, they're just polar opposite kind of energies. So that was one of the craziest stories that I have. Another crazy story in a good way happened not too long ago. I want to say it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I was mailing a package in the post office abroad, overseas. And there was this big long line, and you know the post office, right? Like, it's not exactly the most fun place to be.
Oh, it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. And the employees, you know, weren't exactly having their best days either. And so it comes to my turn, and I get there, and obviously, you know, things aren't going right. And I'm getting frustrated. She's getting frustrated. And I'm getting a little bit, you know, not the nicest, and she's getting a little bit not the nicest. So we're mirroring each other. All of a sudden, in the middle of this gentleman out of nowhere just steps through, and you can instantly feel the energy shift and change. It's like he has this amazing aura about him of this sweetness, of this love, of this compassion, of this understanding. And he looks at me totally unfazed by my current state of frustration and anger. And he just, I always remember this. And he's like, you know, he looks at me and he's like, you know, you could try this here and there, and this is a way that you can get around it. It's really easy. And I hope you're having a great day. And he just said stuff like that. And I was just melted immediately. All of that just melted out of me, that frustration, that anger. And it transpired to her as well. Like it caught on to her as well. And she just started smiling, and we felt lighter and more free. And he left just as soon as he came in. And now looking back on that, that was an angel.
Yeah.
That was a full-bred angel that I met, who is there to teach us all something. And the entire atmosphere of that particular location just changed in an instant. It was so awesome. It just felt so good. I can remember how that feels now. But they want us to know that that energy is available to us. You don't have to be an angel to pass that along. That's within us. If I'm capable of being that mean and nasty, I'm also capable of being that sweet and loving and accommodating and understanding and compassionate. And
guys,
that was,
are you guys ready to do a live reading?
Yes, we are.
we got somebody in the lobby that are about to come in, and you guys get to see it face to face. One of the best ways to do these readings because you get to see their reactions.
Okay.
So we have Kiani. Kiani, can you see us? Can you hear us? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for coming in.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm going to be quiet now and let them do their thing. Now this is where I get to sit back with my coffee and my vape and just hang out. Go ahead.
All right. How can we help, Kiani?
I don't know. I just like this stuff.
Did you have a question or a concern?
Cantaloupe.
Just go.
Just go.
Cantaloupe came up.
I have no idea.
Somebody about melon or like the orange melon, you know. Like I'm seeing like a picnic table and like cantaloupe, and it's like this memory of something. Like I feel like you're kind of young with this, 5 or 6 years old. I feel like this is a relative. Did you guys have like conventions and stuff a lot as a kid, like eating outside, barbecues, getting together, family kind of stuff?
Maybe not a whole lot, but there's a lot about my childhood that I really don't remember at all. There's a lot of blank spaces.
Yeah. You have like an aunt coming through. I don't want to give out a name, but
Okay. I probably know who that is.
is it E? Does she have a name with E?
There's an E in her name.
Because I got like Edna right away. That's kind of an old name, but I'm not sure what that's about. But I got like an aunt coming through who wants to talk about these conventions and everything.
Oh.
It's like there were like balloons. There's like a red balloon that was like let go of and it like went up. You might remember that.
Whoa. Actually, can I tell you something?
Go for it.
I have this memory when I was little that I drowned in a pool in Ohio. Nobody else remembers this. Nobody that I was with, nobody that I remember. They all say it never happened. They never had a pool. And I told them I felt like I was a red balloon lifting up into the sky and I was floating away.
Shit. Holy shit.
That was true. It happened.
Yeah.
I remember it in detail, but nobody remembers it.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like I don't want to freak you out or anything, but I feel like you've skipped timelines. Like you were given a second shot. You were getting a second chance at life because it was not your time at all. It was not your time. So that's why there's a lot of gaps there. There's other reasons too.
Yeah.
But again, like just like with ghosts, we're the same too. We need to take it one step at a time with understanding, going back there. Have you ever done a soul retrieval?
I don't know what that is.
Look up online Sandra Ingerman, Soul Retrieval. Do I have that book? No, I have one book by her there. That would really help. Find a local shaman or find a local healer, somebody that you really align with. I don't know if you have, do you have native blood in you? I feel like
my dad said that we do, but I don't know of what though.
Yeah, you do. You do. You do. Find a medicine man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what soul retrieval is really briefly, it's when you have experiences and you leave a little piece of yourself behind with either people or places. And so what Skye's asking you to do is he's asking you to bring back all that energy from the different places and stuff so you feel more whole and coherent.
Oh my God, that answers like so many questions that I've asked throughout my whole life. Like, why is all of this missing? I don't understand why I don't feel complete or whole.
So your parents didn't answer questions to you and they're split, correct?
Yes. They
Okay.
are.
And so mom tends to hide behind lies a lot and dad just sort of pretends like everything's okay.
That's probably true. That's or at least it was. I don't know so much now, but it was for a large part of my life.
Yeah. So they don't know how to answer some of the difficult questions. Like they needed more sophistication to kind of raise you, and they just didn't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's layers to this.
Yeah.
Awesome. I feel like there's a relative of yours, like a brother or somebody who seems like a brother, who really has a lot of beef, a lot of hatred and anger and bitterness surrounding your dad.
Mm-hmm.
A brother of mine or his?
Could be either.
When you ask that, I feel like it's his.
Okay, because he does have a brother that passed away a long time ago, but I don't know him. Like, I don't remember him at all.
Okay.
The soul retrieval is going to help loads. And those memories are going to come back little by little. If you were watching earlier on the broadcast, that I had that suggestion for that one gal with the 2 candles on her altar. If you have an altar of some sort or some sort of sacred place that you can pray to, or put like pictures from your childhood that are sweet memories that you do have, or just things that represent your life path so far for you that are positive and are reaffirming, do that and light those candles and pray or meditate or ask your guides and your soul family, your ancestors to help you out. Crack a window open a little bit too at night, because I feel like you wake up from nightmares sometimes.
When I sleep in my bed, which I don't a lot anymore because I have this thing now.
Yeah.
My bed vibrates from time to time, like someone's sitting up or getting up or something.
Yeah.
I don't ever feel like they're there to hurt me, but they're always there. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, they want to connect with you.
That freaks me out.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Contact either me or Lily later. We can help out with that. There's a lot to it.
Yeah. I don't.
Absolutely.
You're on the right path. You are very well protected. You have a very strong, very, very strong soul family.
That's what people keep telling me. That keeps coming up a lot.
You have Mongol warriors behind you, like I do too.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Skye needs the warriors because Skye pisses people off. But
I don't know if I can put any childhood pictures up, though. I grew up in a very scary place.
Yeah.
Like, it's torn down now, but even just having pictures of that ground on my phone messed with my soul.
Draw yourself. Draw yourself and put yourself in between the 2 candles and see what happens. See what happens, because you have to trust your eyes. It's going to show you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kiani, for coming in. We have Jacqueline coming in now.
Okay.
So I appreciate you, and hopefully you remain listening to the Full Spectrum Universe and definitely get in contact with them. We're going to put up all their information later so you can follow them as well.
Okay.
So it was a pleasure having you on, and have a great night. We actually have a backup going on now. There's a couple people coming in.
Thank you so much, guys. That was so awesome.
Thank you, Kiani.
Thank you.
All right. You guys ready for Jacqueline?
Yeah.
Ready.
Jacqueline,
Hi,
how are
guys.
you?
Hey.
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to
I
Full
went-
Spectrum Universe.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. This is actually the first time I ever saw this, and I'm glad I did tune into your channel. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So if after this, please go to our YouTube page and support us and subscribe, please.
Absolutely.
We need all the help we can get. But I'll leave it to them now. Now is where I get to sit back. This is the best. They do the work, and I just, reap the benefits in somewhat of a sense.
So how can we help?
Well, I really want to channel my mother. I want to see if she has anything to say to me, anything to that nature. I'm going through a lot right now. So I just need a mother's love. And I don't know.
Bake cakes.
I don't remember.
Did you have like a
I was
birthday?
3.
Did you have a birthday lately? It was kind of lonely.
Yes, my birthday was July 2nd. My birthday was July. I didn't do anything.
She baked you a cake for that day because you didn't do anything. She's like, give yourself that space to love yourself and honor yourself as she did when she was alive, and the people around you. Like you always want to know what's there before you step.
Mm-hmm.
But where we're going at right now, like you've got so much love around you. Where you step, no matter what decision you make, you're on the right path. You can't screw it up. You're so worried about screwing up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any carnelian? Do you know what carnelian is?
No.
It's an orange-red stone, and it would be really helpful for you. It would kind of give you the joy back in your life, because I agree with Skye. I feel like you're so worried about the practical stuff, you've kind of forgot that you're alive and there's stuff to be grateful for.
Yes, I'm so worried about the practical stuff that I stay stuck.
Right.
and I don't move. And that's what I'm trying to get out of now. Like I've been cooped up in my room, not to say, we were in quarantine, but cooped up in my room, not doing anything. And it's like I'm blocked.
You're not blocked. See, that's the thing. You feel blocked.
Yeah.
But if you take the orange stone, and I feel like you need to cry.
Yes, I do.
So let yourself cry. It's okay. You're gonna. It won't destroy you. You'll be fine. And that's the orange stone that Skye's holding up. And you could, either put it on like a pendant or a ring or something. It would just bring you a lot of joy, and it would remind you to have the life that you need. But I feel like, these birthdays. I just had a birthday. It was like the dumbest birthday ever. I mean, we had like a couple of phone calls, and that was it. And I thought, okay, well, at least I had phone calls. At least I had people who love me. You have to kind of look at it in that way. No, we couldn't go out. No, there wasn't any big gifts. That's okay. I have what I need. Okay. So I kind of feel like the same applies with you. I kind of feel like this is not going to stay like this forever. I promise. This pandemic will be over, but we will be very different afterwards.
Okay.
You have these ideas. Do them. Try them.
Right.
Like with Etsy or something.
No.
Or something like that.
Etsy, no. I haven't tried anything or thought of anything with Etsy. Not that I can remember.
It's like
I come up with these ideas and then I just don't write them down. So
okay.
You let them go too quick.
Yeah.
You've got great ideas. I feel like Lily's saying, you feel like you're stuck, but you've got all this flow to you. There's a lot of flow. That's the proper word. So believe in yourself. It'll come fast. But you're so afraid of like, am I doing it the right way? Am I doing it the right way? Like, let the path take you. You don't have to carve it out yourself. Right. Because like, I feel like a lot of your childhood and early adulthood, you had to do that to survive, to get by. Yeah. Not only like with money and things like that, but also emotionally, because there have been people that have hurt you pretty deeply, and you have this tendency to kind of like approach everybody and everything with this like, hold on a sec, I have to create this map for myself, and then if they fit into it, if they plug into it, then it's okay. So you're being challenged, or you're being led to trust in love, trust in that path. Your mom is going to be there. She's going to come to you when you let go. When you cry, when you let it out, you're going to release that what you've been holding onto, which isn't serving you. And that is the block to mom. Because like I was saying earlier, when we were channeling you, is like that sometimes when we want it so bad, and we want it so bad, and we want it so bad, we create the fog ourselves without realizing it. But no judgment, because we're all human beings. We do this. Like, it's visceral. It's our experience here and now. It's a lot sometimes. Yeah. But you're really being well taken care of. Your mom is always with you. And whenever you're reminded of her on the radio, or I feel like she had a certain kind of perfume, you get little whiffs here and there.
You said something about the radio. There's a certain song that comes on the radio when I know that she's there. Just before you said the scent. I'm not sure of any scent.
That's going to come. That isn't yet.
Okay.
But when you like embellish those moments, cherish those moments, savor the moments. Don't just be like, oh, okay, whatever. And now what's my next task? Because you have a tendency to kind of do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where can I get the orangine? That's what it's called?
Carnelian.
Carnelian. Okay.
So you can get it at any gem shop, and eBay, Etsy. You don't have to spend a lot of money.
Okay.
Just something
it's gonna come fast.
Maybe that's what the Etsy was. You're gonna go get yourself a stone.
Right.
Okay.
And I want to just say one thing, and I'm not sensitive in any way, but try and be open to those experiences, like he says. Don't sit there kind of like if you smell something and like kind of be open to it, because if you block it out, you won't smell anything, you won't feel anything. Expand, sit there, meditate, center yourself, try and become one with the environment around you, and maybe those things will come out to you a little bit more.
Okay.
It's okay to feel shitty. Sorry if I'm not.
No, it's okay. You're good.
It's okay to feel that way.
No.
It doesn't have to stick.
Right.
It isn't gonna stick. It's
Okay.
just we think it's going to stick, so that's what keeps us there. I am guilty of this just as much as anybody else.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you guys' help.
Jacqueline, we so appreciate you. Thank you for coming on and letting
Thank
them
you
do
for
that for you.
having me.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. You know, we look forward to seeing you out there in the audience again, Jacqueline. And
Absolutely.
anytime we have them on, you're more than welcome to come on at any time. So
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Good night.
have a great night. All right. We got one more here. We have Laura. I think Laura's having an issue. Laura, can you hear us? Laura might be having problems with connection.
Tech issues?
Well, yeah, we'll wait for her to come back. I'm sure she'll make it back in there somehow.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was a couple of live readings. That was awesome. That balloon, the red balloon. And you know what's funny, Skye, is a lot of times that I'm on with a psychic, they talk about red balloons. It's like it's something for me as well. It's wild.
You know,
that's
the weirdest
the
thing is I feel
third
that
person.
too. Yeah,
the
for
third
me-
person that said that.
I had that in a dream, and I have a dream journal. A lot of people watching and listening right now, keep a dream journal next to your bed. A lot's coming through. This month of October 2020 is super, super thin with the veil. So even if you don't have so-called abilities and all of that, and like it, you're gonna like we're all human beings. We're all human beings. We have a lot of us have capabilities, and without even realizing it, and a lot is going to come through for us. And like she was saying earlier, like it's hard to jot it down or write it down or whatever. Go for it. Write it down. Process it later if it's too much. But that's what came up with red balloon. I had a dream with a red balloon that floated up as well.
It must be significant in some way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe it has some kind of profound meaning that it eludes me in any way, shape, or form. But I think we have Laura coming back in. Laura, can you hear us, Laura? Laura's having an issue. Laura, try opening it up through Google. I'm just going to remove you from the stream. Let it load up. Sit there for a minute and let's see if it comes through. But, you know, I totally, like I said to you when we were talking in our conference, you know, it's conference with guests before they come on, you know, it's kind of like a gift and a curse. You know, this whole thing is like a gift and a curse. There's moments where you get to, you know, it's so beautiful when you help people, but there's also that maybe finding things out that you would rather not tell people and or not know of those people. So not with getting descriptive, but have you had a lot of experiences like that? Or what are some of the most profound experiences that stand out to you that were sort of give and take, you know?
You want to go, Lily? Or I've got it's like every time, like almost all the time. So I have been working on myself I ask my guides to help me be more graceful, be more tactful, because I've had a tendency all my life to be really like kind of harsh with how I say things. And that's not always appropriate for every situation, every circumstance. You have to be compassionate towards one another. And that really stems from me being that harsh with myself. So any behavior that you're receiving from other people like that, you just have to realize that they are going through that themselves, and they wouldn't have that to give if that wasn't what they were experiencing within them too. So a lot of times, well, I don't know if I want to talk about that. Well, maybe I can. There was one client who got past my radar a little bit. And there was some real funky, nasty mojo going on. And it was very subversive. It was very manipulative. It was very like sneaky. And I caught on to it in the middle of the reading. And the cards were coming out left and right, just like all the warning signs, like, get out. She is not taking this seriously. She is not, you know, she's taking you a run for your money, whatever. And it was my test, in my perspective, you know, from what I was experiencing, to set my boundary there and to discern and say, okay, I'm not going to be a part of this. And I'm going to let her know what's going on. And we're going to dust our hands free of that. That happens sometimes, but it's really about the progress of the individual in that case. You know, that's like with what I'm going through as a psychic medium, what a lot of other psychic mediums go through with whatever they happen to experience. But yeah, like there's stuff that comes up all the time where it's like, should I go all the way there? Should I give them the whole enchilada, or just, give them the mole or the chilies as an appetizer? It's a lot to digest.
Some people can't hear certain things, and then they'll say, "Oh, that's not true," or "Oh." The best I heard was when I read a guy told him that a certain girl wasn't going to come back, told him that there was someone else coming from, and he's like, "Well, the other psychic said she'd be coming back." So he clearly preferred this other psychic because he wanted to hear what he wanted to hear. I said, "You know what? Go back to the other psychic. When you want the truth, come to me, because it's not always going to be what you want to hear. It'll be what I'm seeing." Which brings me to an important point. So there are some people who make up stuff for an answer. You will never see that from Skye or myself. If we don't know the answer, we'll tell you we don't know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that more than, that is a big deal, because a lot of people, sometimes they embellish it. And not that you guys are in any way, I'm not saying this, but we know that there are a lot of frauds out there.
Totally. People
who do this that aren't so much in the light. They're more in the dark because they're trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. And it's a terrible thing. It really is. And that what it does is, people don't understand that you two have this innate ability that's amazing. It sort of downplays some of the things that you guys are actually, the light you're trying to bring to people, because it makes other people skeptical about it. It's a lot. They find a lot of that in every community, the UFO community, the paranormal community. People who think they have these experiences or make up these experiences. And I've actually dealt with a little bit of that, not so much on the show, but with people who are a little untruthful. And you see them on an episode, it was actually a UFO thing. And you see him on an episode where he's talking about one thing, and then the next time he's on another episode of somebody else's show, he's on something totally different. And it's the same experience he's talking about. But, and that's, and I appreciate that you wouldn't say, that you would say, I don't know,
No, like the biggest thing that I'm thinking of is pregnancy. We'll get pregnancy readings. I'm very good at timing. I'm damn good at timing. You can ask Skye. You can look at my validation thing and Divine Light, right? I mean, I've got like pages and pages of people telling me, you said the timing. And so anyway, my point is, when I tell people the timing, sometimes they don't want to hear it's in 3 years, or it's a boy when they want the girl, and I'm like, or they don't want to hear that it's not going to happen,
Right.
And I'm really,
and they'll knock themselves off that timeline, and then they'll do their own self-fulfilling prophecy. Look, see, I was right. It didn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
I was gonna make a stupid joke like, when's it coming? When's my time? I feel like from being locked in for so long, I feel like I'm getting pregnant. Jesus, I can't.
Like Arnold Schwarzenegger in that 80s film. What was that? Where he has
that's a perfect example where I will say, if I really don't see one, I'll say, I'm not sure you're going to have one. You may have to look into options.
Right.
And also really kindly, because this is, it's people's lives, it's their feelings. Yeah. You've got to take it seriously and be nice about it. And then they'll respond. Then they'll tell you, you were nice. Blah 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 was really mean. So, yeah.
Like I said, I appreciate that. It's always better to not speak about something you don't know, as opposed to just making things up. I think that's no matter where you are or what frame of mind or life you're talking about, it's always better to just be like, well, I don't know. I do a lot of research. There's a lot of things I don't know. I'm learning every day, like a lot of other people. It's crazy. I asked Laura to put a question in the comments. Would you be able to read her from the comments?
Sure.
Is that when she puts that question in there? Because she tried very hard to get in, and I want to see if we can get her maybe a question answered, if we can. But while we're here now, why don't you guys tell everybody where they can find both of you? I want to make sure that we get that message out. I'm actually going to be putting it in the live stream. I'm going to edit the live stream, and I'm going to put your information in at a later date too. So when it's shared everywhere, it'll be transformed everywhere, and it'll have your information. Also, we're going to put it in the comments before we leave too. So if you guys want to put it in the private chat, I can share it into the comments to make sure everybody goes to your pages, likes you guys, and follows you. Okay, we have Laura's question.
See that.
I'm just Tommy's alone meeting my daughter. If I get my nervous order back as Kevin, I'm going to be okay. Is he faithful? So this is a bunch of questions.
There's quite a few questions there. You want me to leave it up there for you?
Yeah.
They want me to draw a card. Is that all right?
Yeah. Go for it.
Oh, I don't know. Were you talking to me? Or were you talking to Whitley? I was like, yeah,
everybody.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no.
And me. And Laura. Yeah, it's coming regardless. What does Laura Helms need to hear right now?
So Tommy is with you, and I don't think Kevin is faithful. That's why you're asking. Yeah.
The monk, the light attribute, selfless devotion and single-minded dedication to spirit.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let Skye answer because that was what I was getting.
You have to. You're questioning yourself too much.
Yeah.
Like you're the responsibility here. It's like you want to give away your power or give away your responsibility to other people or the situations when they don't really deserve it. They're not in a space right now where they can really be fully responsible.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was coming about because I don't think that that's related to your question, but
no. So like Kevin might not be behaving as responsibly as he could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. With Kevin.
Yeah.
Tommy.
Tommy is definitely with you. He's your ex-husband who's passed. I'm seeing a guy about 6 foot with brown hair, medium build, kind of scrawny, really sharp sense of humor.
Did he like Levi jeans?
Yeah.
He liked the dark blue ones, like the ones back in the day, really expensive ones. Aw.
Let us know. Okay. I thought that was Keone Dimmers. That's the one who comes on our live, Skye.
Yeah.
I thought, I wasn't sure. I was like, huh.
Thanks, Keone.
Yep.
Yeah, Laura, it's like this card is about the Kevin guy.
Yeah.
Because you've got like two different things going on and you're like going back and forth thinking about this, thinking about this, thinking about this. So they're kind of like bleeding together. It's like the thoughts are bleeding together.
Yeah.
It's okay to compartmentalize and let go once you've thought something through, but you have a tendency to rehash what you've already hashed. And it's purely just a lack of self, what's the word? Not confidence, but like, you don't believe in yourself fully. That's what that's coming from. Like you question the intuition that comes to you because you are quite intuitive. Your child's intuitive too. And I feel like she actually says things to you that confirm or help you to confirm what you already know when nobody else can or nobody else will or nobody else does.
Mm-hmm.
Laura says, yeah.
No, she's saying yeah.
Mm-hmm. Single-minded dedication to spirit. Yeah, don't get so. I feel like you're splitting your mind. Like center your mind, make it whole. You don't have to like fracture it or fracturalize. I'm seeing like it's like a bamboo rod and it's like split on the top and it goes like that. And there's like all these little strands here and there. Like bring it back together and mend it so that you can and feel confident in the clarity that you have. It's your truth. It doesn't mean it has to apply to everybody simultaneously. I think that's part of the issue with it. Are you a Libra too? Because I feel like this is a Libra kind of thing.
She's saying yes to the jeans.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, he liked those jeans.
When you say that, I feel like maybe she's splitting her mind in the sense that she's thinking about a dozen different things at once and losing focus on all of them because she's trying too hard to figure everything out. Focus on one thing at a time. On your ducks will fall in a row after that.
Yes. We have to let go of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The way that we're going to be functioning in the future is going to be different than how we have for a long, 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 long time. Because there are changes that are happening slowly but surely. But Spirit's got our back along every step of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, guys. That was phenomenal. I loved watching you guys read, especially in tandem like that. I want to call you guys like the tandem mediums or like the tandem seers. Like boop, boop,
That's
boop, boop.
kind of how we do it on our show. Where we just kind of jump in on each other because I got this, I got that.
The fact that you bounce off of each other makes it like almost like a clearer picture of everything. It's kind of it's exceptional. Like I think it's like it's almost like I want to say like the duality of man. Like you have both sides and you're hitting every angle. It's awesome because you both think in the same way, but also differently at the same time. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like you guys hit it from both sides. It's truly remarkable. which is what David was saying. You know, it's very cool. He's never seen anything like it. And honestly, I've never either. But I think it's just, you know, it's
Cool.
fantastic.
Me and
It's
Lily
fantastic.
did have past life together.
Yeah, we've had many, so that's why we work so well.
Splitting minds, yeah. And her granddaughter's name is Lily.
Oh, nice.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So we got about 7 minutes to wrap up. So guys, I want you to tell the people anything. This is your time to tell them whatever you want to tell them. Any messages you may have to them, and then we'll get into where they can find you. But give them something like where, you know, something to part with, in a sense.
Well, our second topic, if we had time to get into that, so maybe we'll do it on another show.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Would be therapy with indigo children. And one of the things I want to point out about indigo children, teenagers, or adults, because they could be any age, the term just applies to the color of their aura. It is that person, in order for that person to grow up and develop and understand themselves, sometimes you need to go to therapy. I know I was a psychologist. I had to go to therapy. Sometimes, though, you need to go to a psychic or a medium to understand something about yourself. And people in the outside world, unfortunately, view you as crazy. And if you can go to people like us, then you can get that kind of understanding. And go to someone who's got a college degree, go to someone who has outside interests, who seems really practical and down to earth, because that's the person who will actually give you a realistic view of yourself, not some airy fairy person that, talks the speak, as I put it. That's not going to help you. So that would be my advice to people seeking out help among psychics and mediums. Just kind of get a sense of the person themselves.
Agreed. That airy fairy person, bring it down to the real,
Right.
Get real with it. Go ahead, Skye.
Well, there's a lot to say, but what I heard right away is don't give up. There's people watching right now that do feel like, what more is going to happen here? What do I have to do? Like I'm on the end of my rope. Just know that what we're feeling right now is a lot of, I guess you would say, residue or stuff that we might not even be aware of that's coming to the surface so we can release it, so we can transmute it. And it seems 10 times worse than it actually is, because once you pop through, once you walk through, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, it depends on you. There's no one way to do it, but this healing level by level, step by step is happening. There is no way to make a wrong turn. There is no mistake to this. This fear, that's coming up, this anger, this resentment, a lot that's coming up, it's a gift to us now because we never would have given that time to ourselves otherwise in the previous paradigm. And we're in kind of like a twilight zone, literally and figuratively, because we're in a transitory phase of what we're passing through right now. All of us, every single man, woman, child, some animals as well, too, a lot of animals, okay? And we do have light beings on the earth right now, whether we see it or not. This month, there are extraterrestrials that are here among us. I'm not typically one to get that, but last month and the month before it came on really strong. This very particular species that I channeled through is here among us to help us. We don't always see them. A lot of us do. There's nothing to fear what's going on right now. Don't lose hope in yourself. And confidence comes with clarity. Some of us try to force it. You don't have to force it. Like the gal earlier that we were reading, who needs to cry, who needs to sit with her emotions and just witness them. Jacqueline, thank you. We just need to give ourselves the space. When we give ourselves the space to be and to see what's going on and to value our experience, that opens us up to healing, not just for ourselves, but when we interact with one another too. And a lot's changing. A lot is changing for the good. There's a deep underbelly of this pure love and light that's 1 billion times stronger than any sort of temper or tantruming or kicking and screaming, clawing and biting that we might see in the next 5 months.
Excellent.
Just keep that in mind.
Excellent. That's awesome. I mean, that's very good parting words. Skye, why don't you start and tell everybody where they can find you, where they should go like, where they should subscribe. Let them know.
Sure. Well, you can find me on Facebook for the time being. I have recently made a page for my mediumship. I began with Chinese astrology. So if you're into astrology, you can go over to Revealing Fate Astrology on Facebook. Find me there if that's your jam. Or you can find me at Skye Chen Psychic. So facebook.com/Skye Chen Psychic. Or you can search me up. I should come up through the search. I have a website as well. It's revealingfate.com. And there I list all the different options that I offer and everything. I do mediumship, so I channel. I also do a form of energy work I call ethereal calibration. It's really shamanic clearing. It's similar to Reiki, but it's whatever I can do. It's purely intuitive and it's pretty powerful. Lily's actually seen it a couple times when just kind of come up out of the blue with certain readings, especially with people who have broken hearts, people who need alignment of the different levels, dimensions, and levels of dimensions within their what I call bodies. We have a physical body, an ethereal body, a mental body, a spiritual body. We have all sorts of different bodies in between, and they can kind of get like disheveled and lost, and they need to be like kind of honed in and come back. On a deeper level, like that gal earlier where I suggested, I think it was soul retrieval. That's like that's
Keone.
Yeah.
Keone. Thank you. Yeah, I'm terrible with names and remembering them. A lot of times when we're channeling, at least for me, I'm not really there. Like Skye Chen isn't there, it's just like I'm empty and whatever's coming through is coming through. So keep that in mind too. Let's see what else. The Facebook and revealingfate.com is really where to find me. I've got my Google Calendar linked up with my schedule, so to be able to know exactly what's available that we can both meet.
Awesome. Lily, go ahead. Tell them where they can find you.
So on Instagram, it's Readings with Lily. So it's /Instagram.Readings with Lily. On Twitter, it's twitter.com/LilyB444. And on Facebook, you can just type Lily Bhattacharya SID and it'll come up. Or Readings by Lily and it'll come up. It'll be like this little Buddha cartoon character. And that's how you'll know. And it'll have an Encinitas address. And we do readings 7 days a week. You just have to call and book us. And I'm on the West Coast. Skye's on Central Time.
And Rob's on Eastern Standard.
You damn right.
I'm awake at your time, so don't worry about it.
Awesome. Guys, I want to thank you. Thank you for coming on. I can't wait to have you guys back. I hope you'll come back. It's truly a phenomenal episode. We did a lot of great work today, and I truly feel that you guys are a force to be reckoned with. I mean, it's truly amazing and so admirable to see you guys do what you do. And it's truly astonishing to watch it all take place. So I hope that you'll let me in to do that again. Thank you, guys. Please go follow them. Go to their pages, like whatever they put out, share whatever they put out, just like we would ask you to do of this specific page, this site. We have at Facebook, we have my site. I'm Rob Yox. You can find me at Rob Yox. We have Full Spectrum Universe, the group. Please join. We also have Full Spectrum Universe, the business page. Please like it. Please go to Full Spectrum Universe on YouTube. I would love everybody to like the videos. Please subscribe. I want to thank everybody in the audience for coming out. But now it's the time. It's that time, everybody, for you to get back in that spaceship and go back to your own universe. This time has expired in mine. And this has been Full Spectrum Universe. I want to thank everybody for coming in. Next week, we have Natalie Jones. She is a paranormal investigator as well as a ufologist. So we'll see you next time on Full Spectrum Universe. Everybody have a great night. And thank you both for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.